Welcome to the Automate and Grow podcast.
All right, here we are. This is episode 5 of the Automate and Grow podcast. And I'm here with Gene, and let's say
What's going
Blinkov, is
on?
that correct?
That's right, Gene Blinkov, Gene B.
Blinkov. And Gene and I met through an online group of 10Xers, people that are trying to blow up and grow, grow their businesses through various means. And Gene's an interesting guy, so I wanted to have him on the podcast to talk about a couple things. Here on Automate and Grow, we obviously talk, one area is about transformational digital technologies, and Gene works in kind of an area that we don't usually talk about, which is, I would say, is robotics and maybe a little bit of AI. And then he also is actually a funnel expert, which really, to his point, he can explain it, is really about marketing with the right tools in this era. So
Yep.
Gene, maybe you can do a little better job of me than tell me about, tell us who you are and what sort of stuff you
Yeah,
do.
absolutely, man. Thanks so much for having me on.
You're
really,
welcome.
really thankful for the opportunity. It was good to meet you in the group, man. Finally, we found the right time together. And a little bit about me, Gene Blinkov. Also known as Evgeny Blinkov, but I
Evgeny.
actually changed my first name to make it easier for my clients, my prospects to talk to me. So I'm that client obsessive. But
Did you legally change your name to do that?
I not legally, but just
Okay,
like
good.
everywhere,
It's like a
everywhere.
nickname.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's like people call me Mike, and it's like I sometimes don't answer them by accident. So even though it's Michael.
I see. Yeah, and so I actually was working probably for about 10 years. I worked in technology companies and IT departments of technology companies, and essentially I went from like a business analyst, essentially a person that works between technology and the business departments. I went into a project manager, essentially running software projects and getting things to go live. Then went to client project management, where my company would deploy me at a client site, and I would be managing our resources, their resources, and that was all good and well. But I kind of started noticing that, man, I am never gonna get like what I really want out of life working these jobs. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, am I? And that was when I just landed a gig at IBM, or actually
Okay.
it was a startup that IBM acquired. And I took a good hard look at myself and looked at IBM, and I'm like, could I become the CEO? Because that's like the only freaking way that I would get what I really want out of life. And I still think I could, but I
You
figured,
mean
man,
within IBM? You want to be the CEO of IBM
yeah, I'm like, man, no, let's.
or a
Ever
smaller
since I was a
company?
kid, I went into a business degree. Like
Got
I
it.
was always about business. And the funny thing is that my family, and I'm from. We talked earlier. I'm
Yeah.
from over here, Kyrgyzstan. Okay, so this very little spot. 5 million country, and my family was very much, they were workers, like they were employees. There was nobody business in our family. And so that even set it as like a higher challenge, because I've never watched anybody closely build a business before.
Right.
So I was just like, man, no, let's go. Let's get into business. And at the time, what actually was happening is that I I really got into drones. Drones kind of came on this consumer scene, and at that time for consumers, it was really expensive. It was like a couple grand for you to get a really decent drone that would take photography. And I was flying them. Then I got pretty good at flying them. I wasn't like the best, but I was pretty good. And then people started asking me to do it for them, like for their real estate project or
Interesting.
for the real
Okay.
estate sale. Yeah, so it's like people were asking me to do it. And I've heard somebody say, like, you should go into business when people are telling you that you should. So I was like, people are telling me, like, I should do this for a living. Cool. And what I did was I actually put a little brand name around it, and it actually still the same name, Drone Boston, and this is my first business, so
I
I'm
love it.
rocking it
And
today.
it's Polo, Ralph Lauren, so
I know
that's
I
high
had to do it. I
end.
was like nothing else.
It's classy.
Yeah, I think the only upgrade I could go with a YSL.
There you go. Little Yves
But
Saint Laurent, nothing wrong with that.
yeah,
Next
that'll
year.
be Neil Patel style.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
So,
and
okay, so just to orient ourselves, so you came from, is it Kurdistan? Is that what you said?
it's Kyrgyzstan with a G.
Kyrgyzstan. Okay, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. And then, well, I didn't say that when I thought it, but so this is, to level set, it's really interesting to hear you say that, where your family were workers, because that was part of, like you mentioned before, part of the Soviet Union before.
Yeah.
And at what point did you or your family come over from there?
Yeah, I was 15 years old. This was the beginning. This was like the beginning of the 20s, of the zero zeros.
2000s. Yep.
Yeah, and that was when we came here. The way we came here is my sister used to be like an exchange student, and then she fell in love with the country, and then she every year she would fill out this lottery for my
Oh yeah,
parents.
right. The green card lottery.
Yeah, the green card lottery.
Yep.
And my dad one year won, like a couple of years after playing.
Wow.
So pretty lucky. And so my parents, I give this credit to my parents. Like, I freaking love my parents for this, because they were pretty established there. And actually at the time my dad got the highest paying job ever that he got. And man, they fucking still went and moved here, like up and moved here, like
Wow.
left everything. And I think a large part of that was because I think it was for me. I mean, I
To
I
give
have
you
to,
opportunity to do more.
absolutely, yeah. Plus, I was kind of an asshole back there. I was kind of like
Wait,
skipping
so
school.
you were thrown out, weren't you? They threw you out. Let's be honest. Come on. You're not allowed to go back. It's okay. But that's really interesting. So, I mean, your parents made a pretty big sacrifice to bring you to a country where you had, the freedom to do whatever you decided? Or what was their motivation?
Exactly. Yeah. It just, I think, and I think I think we would have been fine where we were. It wasn't like a terrible place by any means. But yes, I mean, they grew up in a very stable environment where there's a ton of opportunity to do what you want in Soviet Union. Now, you can't go into business, but
Right.
the economy was pretty good. Education was free, like medical stuff, all was free, so all that stuff. So yeah, they kind of saw a downgrade when the Soviet Union broke up, because obviously,
Oh, very challenging time, right?
yeah, the 90s, they went
Very
through the
challenging.
90s, man. Like, yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, they felt that it was going to be better to be here. And yeah, man, I still, like, that makes me hustle so much more, because
That's
I know
amazing.
that, like, my family made that sacrifice for me, and I'm making sacrifice for them when I'm like up at night doing shit, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I think that's always interesting to me. I mean, I'm not originally American. Like, I came from another country, which is Canada, which is, maybe not that far away, and it's definitely not as challenging as living in, a former Eastern Bloc country, right? But I'm always interested in that and respect that, because I think I was attracted to the same thing. Like, you always want freedom and opportunity, and that's, I think a lot of people put their life on the line, literally. Like, I always respect that, and it's always kind of interesting, because that's always an interesting story too. Because now you're probably doing really interesting stuff, like your drone stuff is really interesting to hear about. So
Yeah, yeah, and the drone stuff, actually, I mean, that was my first kind of gig, my first business, and I kind of loaded up because I needed the external knowledge, and I think that's why the internet and YouTube and just the books, having access to everybody else's wisdom. I think if I had to sum up all the wisdom that I took from all the successful people that I watched, was just don't fucking be afraid to fail. Like, just don't worry
right, the
about
risk.
falling on your face.
Yeah,
It's almost like they tell you, you're gonna fall on your face. Just be fine with it,
yeah.
you know?
So be
And
future focused on growth and opportunity, as opposed to how this could kill me.
yeah,
Take
yeah,
my lunch
exactly.
away.
Yeah, and so
That's
and so
that's good feedback. And so with your interest in drones, and drones are really interesting, because I don't know what people's general impression of drones are. I know there's a lot of I talk a lot about the fear that people have of this new wave of technology, and I think robotics and AI are two technologies in particular that people are scared of. And drones, I don't know what people's general impression is, but I see people with real businesses, and you kind of mentioned some of the stuff around that, and maybe you can just talk to, like, how that today, it's not like a futuristic thing, right? Like, this is something
oh
that
yeah,
you can make money on today and
yeah,
work with day in, day out, right?
absolutely. And actually, it's a very interesting thing with drones, and I think with all the every new technology that comes out, how the adoption of it kind of, shrinks. Like, internet took maybe 10 years to really take off. For drones, what actually happened is the consumer drones became available, and then professional drones were a little bit little bit more expensive, a little bit higher barrier of entry. But actually, what happened is there's right now 50 in USA. There's 50,000 people, if not 60 already. 50,000 people that are commercially licensed by the Federal Aviation to fly
Wow.
drones.
Okay.
Right. So that was a trend that I had to kind of face, and that was the first challenge. Maybe not the first, but one of them is that it became the barrier of entry to become a drone, to
Like a
become a
pilot.
local drone business, drone pilot. It was really easy, man,
Oh, really?
because yeah,
Okay.
because the technology, and this is I think very important trend that we all have to pay attention to, is that all these tools around us, all this technology around us, it's getting better at working with people where you
Right.
don't have a high of a learning curve. And it's the same with building funnels. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same with setting up Facebook ads. Like people are afraid to just step in,
And
but they
do
don't
it.
realize that this stuff there's been like billions of dollars were spent to make it actually work easy for you as an average human, and to be able to adopt it. But the competitive forces, like I'm dealing with a ton of I was dealing with a ton of drone pilots that were um, already in the space, and it's kind of like obviously like nobody's the best pilot. It's the guy that puts them out there the most is the best pilot, is the one that
That's
gets in that book,
so
you
there's
know.
competition to see because actually when I say, there are races, right? There's drone
Oh,
races,
oh, that's so cool.
right?
I pray that I have enough time to try that. That is super cool. Racing, man.
That's interesting. Do people make money at racing, or is it still a hobby thing?
Actually, there's a drone racing league, and actually Gary Vee is one of the venture capitalists for
No
that.
way.
Yeah,
That's
he
interesting.
invested in VaynerX. I think VaynerX fund is his venture fund. They invested into DRL, the Drone Racing League.
Wow, that is really interesting. Okay, I did not know that. So that's like an actual thing. Is that on like are they broadcasting it or how is
They
that?
were on ESPN. I don't know if they still are. I think they might be still on ESPN.
It's gonna be interesting to see in the next 10 years like what new things like that like sports emerge. Like I think for
Huh?
example like my daughter plays softball at university, right? And that's like
Yeah.
the fastest growing sport over the last 5 years on ESPN.
Uh-huh.
But then I look at things like these video game competitions and how these guys are able to make it not just to get by a living, but a really big money on YouTube or Twitch, like this whole Twitch thing, right? So I almost wonder if drones are kind of that next thing or one of those next things.
Yeah, and man, you log in, and I think I missed an opportunity there a little bit, but I think the door is still open.
It's probably early. I
Um,
mean, it's not mainstream probably, but
yeah, but like especially with those racing type drones, you will see channels where people are like going in the city. I mean, like they're climbing up a
wow,
skyscraper and
that's
then like falling
crazy.
down. Completely nuts. I watched, man, you have to hear this. I watched this guy, and he's in Moscow, and he's got one of those racing type drones, and he loaded up eggs on top of the drone, eggs, and he's flying over this road, and he's like dropping eggs on cars from this
No, that's terrible. I saw someone sent me like one of those spammy Facebook messages like, if someone throws eggs at your car, don't, turn the windshield wipers on because then they'll jump you when you get out of the car and it'll scream.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know.
oh, wow.
And it was like, and you have to be not selfish and you must share this. So I'm
I
like,
guess that's you could call
there's probably a
that egg a
pixel in
lead
this
magnet.
thing that's gonna like steal my, credit card number or something. Anyway, so we don't want to get too off topic, but drone races are interesting. And then from a perspective of a business, like just to kind of close this out, like drone Boston, for example, like what sort of work would you guys do?
Yeah, so we actually focus on construction, and we do some real estate, but so what we'll do is we'll go in every month on a construction site, but medium to large construction sites, and we will take progress photography, and also there's some software that we have that will stitch the photos together and make actually a 2D orthomosaic map and a 3D model, like a virtual 3D model of everything
Wow.
that's going
Okay.
on. Yeah, and so they use it for comparing it to the initial designs to and then they also obviously the most obvious use is that they just show it to their crew, they show it to their investors, to the actual end customers, and then you're pretty much able to set like side by side these photos of how the project evolved. It gives it the historical context of how it grew. And obviously for marketing materials, they can use like, hey, this is a site that's being developed. They can give an update to their whole community, to the people, to their prospects that are going to be buying homes there. So for construction is where, and I love it because we kind of watch things grow. You get to the site and it's like, ooh, it's already bigger.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So is this something you think, this particular type of service, that's increasingly being understood and accepted, or is it a segment of real estate developers that get it, or?
Yes, I think absolutely. And there were, I think, I would say beginning of last year, folks were like, no, we don't need this. Then closer to the end of the year, and that's how quickly it evolved.
Wow.
We are now seeing construction companies who are actually building those drone departments internally.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And like yesterday, I was talking marketing with a company they're a third party provider, and they do such specific stuff. They do like they'll go and survey the land for solar companies to then know what's the land going to be towards the sun and stuff like that. But yeah, it's getting widely adopted, and the folks that jumped on first are now their drone program is already
very interesting. Rolling. So there's an example of kind of when I talk about, I think the number one job of an entrepreneur is apply one of these digital transformational or exponential technologies that Peter Diamandis talks about to your customer problem. And I think this is the first time where robotics is an example of that for me. So I intuitively understand it, but this is an interesting development to me. And would you say that this is just a growth industry now, and that you think the future of like drones and maybe other robotics, this is just the early stages, or what's your feeling on that?
Yeah, I would say, and I was talking to a venture banker, and he told me like, dude, stay in the industry, because he thought that it's in its infancy.
Early.
To me, it's kind of hard to assess because I've been in the trenches. I've been there. To me, like, I know all my competitors. I know everything that's going on.
Don't quit. You got to be patient.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so funny, right? Because you hear like Gary Vaynerchuk in your ears. He's like, you're what is it? You're overestimating what can be accomplished in I don't know, was it a year?
Yes,
but he says be patient, right?
Yeah,
You keep hustling, but be patient. Like, don't be complacent.
You underestimate what you can do in 1 year, but you overestimate what you can do in 10 years. Yeah,
that's what it is. So that's very interesting feedback, right? And that's really interesting advice. So, not to tell you what to do, because it sounds like you have two careers kind of going simultaneously. So it's kind of interesting.
And part of that was that, honestly, my drone business right now, like, I mean, I've got clients, but it's not getting me to where I need to be.
Okay.
But I told myself that I'm not going to exit out of it. I'm not going to, it's a machine that keeps working. I've got clients that rely on me. I'm not going to stop it. Yeah.
But it's like that concept of a self-managing company. So you're probably similar to my business, where I'm a Salesforce consultant, and then, I'll act as like a fractional CTO for businesses that need, a technical advisor and make decisions. But that's been very much a boutique, almost freelance type business. But now we both got to mature to the point where I think we've had this conversation now that I think about it, where it's like it has to become more than me. So a certain amount of that is tools, right? And then we provide leadership and guidance and probably focus on one area, but we got to build a team maybe, right? That's probably where we're both at.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise right now, if you dropped it, your drone business, it sounds like, is really focused around you and your time, right?
It is. I mean, I outsource some of the gigs because I'm getting actually better and better at capturing leads, and now that I'm using my marketing experience to capture leads for that, now it's kind of all synergistic and it's all, yeah.
So then, just to sum up, it sounds like that's still a growth industry, and I know maybe you get a little tired of it because you've been in it for so long. But it sounds like it's a very interesting space. And what do you think the future of drones and robotics in general would be, if you looked at it?
Yeah, a very good question. I mean, I think we will get to a place where we have some kind of personal flying vehicles. How long that takes, I don't know. Those will be automatic, and I think that's going to be an economy of its own. So like, so before that, obviously the delivery stuff will somehow need to be figured out,
Right.
and that's going to create a whole economy. Like I'm thinking, like, man, how do I design some kind of landing pad for an apartment where it's like just so that
Wow,
docking
that's
experience can
interesting,
be
right?
good. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I didn't
to
think of
get your
that.
products. Yeah, because if you walk into a building right now, like I have an Airbnb that I host, and that's like it's in a condo complex, and you walk in and man, there's like a ton of boxes. There's like 20, 30, 40 boxes in the hallway from Amazon. So I'm like, man,
That's
like what if
crazy.
they've got to
Yeah.
be going through the window.
Whereas you could land on my personal platform and deliver my stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I never even. That's really. You're right. So there's like, to your point, it's like, I think of iPhone and it's like, well, yeah, okay, we created iPhone, and then we created the concept of the app and the App Store, and then it was like, well, cases, suddenly phone cases and accessories, and then there was a whole ecosystem around that you never would have anticipated. It sounds like the same thing, which makes sense for like drones and automated delivery, and you talked about autonomous vehicles, like flying vehicles. It's really interesting because have you heard of Lilium?
No.
So this
No.
is a vertical takeoff electric autonomous vehicle it's a company out of Germany, and they've raised a bunch of money, and they're really recruiting. I know this for a reason, and I can tell you off camera, but yeah, this was, I mean, I don't know. You never know. I might end up in Germany someday, but not thanks
I
to
see.
me,
Yeah.
because of my wife. But anyways, it's a really interesting thing to look at, which is Lilium. It's really like it'll blow your mind when you look at it, because it's like a vertical takeoff, personal craft, but I don't think you fly it. I'm pretty sure it's like an autonomous or piloted vehicle. It's really interesting. It's for
That's
cities,
awesome.
right? So
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah,
man. I'm in line for that.
I
Forget
always
the
wanted a
Tesla.
helicopter,
Forget
and
the
I was
Tesla. I'm in line for that.
well. That's funny you say that, because it's like I want a Tesla, but this is even better. Like I don't want
Yeah.
traffic. So we can shift gears a little bit if you're okay with that,
Oh yeah.
where because I know that you also have this other expertise, and you kind of alluded to it, that you're able to now find leads, and it's almost like in your business you focused on bringing in new opportunities. Talk to me about how you got interested in like funnels and Facebook ads, and what kind of your area of expertise is.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So it was born out of frustration with marketing my own business online. And I launched a website. I had a mentor that helped me put everything together on WordPress and did some basic SEO. But then that thing wasn't ranking. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't bringing leads. I was still having to cold call people. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, man, it would be really nice if it ranked. I and then I took like I 10x that. I took massive action on like I paid somebody to do SEO, white
Okay.
hat SEO. I
Yep.
paid somebody to do black hat SEO, and then I started learning about SEO. And then I'm just like doing all this stuff for SEO, and I'm like, shit, it's not ranking.
Oh, it's
I
still
honestly,
not moving the needle.
yeah. And at one point, I just said, fuck it. I stopped. And funny enough, 2, 3 months after that, I ranked nationally because Google had finally caught up with all my crap. I
Oh,
ranked
okay.
nationally. I didn't even need the national ranking because like I'm a local
You're
guy.
you're Boston. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but like it actually paid off. But so that was when I started learning marketing, and I started putting together all these different landing pages. I made a little ebook for construction
Oh,
sites,
okay.
and I'm just like trying all this stuff. Um, and then actually I started following Grant Cardone much more, and I actually got involved with a coach, a real estate coach. So I figured, all right, so I'm going to be in business. It's eventually going to generate a decent amount of cash flow. Let's learn about real estate. And so I started a real estate gig, which is New England House Cash Buyers. I'm a real estate wholesaler, what they call. So you find motivated sellers online, and then you have a network of cash buyers, and you kind of move properties without them ever hitting the market.
Got it.
And
Okay.
that's exactly and I've already had all this landing page building experience, all this marketing, Facebook ads for my drone business. But then, and I was getting kind of better and better there. But then with this real estate business, I was like, I don't have the time to go and drive around, because that's how a lot of these people do. is they'll drive around looking for crappy properties that are like in disrepair, and then they'll knock on the door and be like, hey, we want to, like, do you want to sell your house because it, you know, it looks like you're not taking care of it, maybe it's time to move on. So I'm like, no, I'm gonna figure out how Facebook works for this and how I can set it up. And so that's when I started using ClickFunnels. I've heard of ClickFunnels before. Yeah, I've heard of ClickFunnels before, like a year ago. And the guy that was watching, Russell Brunson, yeah, shit. The year ago that I watched him, I was like, man, I almost pulled out the credit card then.
Oh, really? Because he was selling you on the product?
And I wish I did, actually.
Oh, really? Would have been cheaper, or?
Yeah, it would have been. I would have figured this out faster because
you would have figured
software. And this gets back to what I was talking about earlier, is that these tools like web design and all that stuff and WordPress, that made it a freaking complete terrible pain to design something, to put something together. But these things are getting so much better where it's at a point, it's almost at a point where it's like an automatic
right.
What you call that?
So,
the automatic
auto
car.
generation create. So it's interesting because you always like ClickFunnels is a tool that seems to really be gaining steam. Russell Brunson was kind of like a traditional internet marketer, right? He was almost like a direct mail marketer that became an internet marketer, right?
Yeah.
And because I remember he's been around for a long time, even though he looks pretty young. And then I think suddenly I kept seeing ClickFunnels, and then I connected that this was the same person. And so I looked at the platform. It's really interesting, right? Like it has some interesting capabilities. I don't know if you want to talk about it's not really a plug for ClickFunnels, but it's always interesting for people, I think, to understand tools that people are using to, okay, fine, I can create a Facebook ad and attract them to something. Then what happens, right? And this is a tool set that you use to go beyond that.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's why I think I actually just as far as just as funnels go, like I just want to kind of briefly cover that because the ClickFunnels and Facebook ads, those are all tools. Honestly, I mean, you could be your ad could be on Craigslist. I have an ad that's on Craigslist that's like, hey, cash buyers attention, I have off-market properties. Sign up at the list at the link here, and that's free traffic. I don't even have to use Facebook ads there because
from Craigslist. Yeah,
and then I have set up a really simple funnel.
Wait, you're getting people that have enough money to pay for a house cash from Craigslist?
Oh yeah, because they're browsing deals all the time. They're trying to invest all the time.
So they're looking for properties, and you're catching them at that source.
Yeah, exactly. So it's it's Facebook, it's Facebook groups. That's a big one. So Facebook, let's say Facebook ads, Facebook groups, and then one hack that I'll give away because I'm about to use it is your Facebook personal page, where you can do something as simple as you put your cover of your Facebook page, you put your little URL there, and you promise them something like, hey, I'll give you 3 secrets on getting your on using Facebook to generate motivated seller leads, right? And you put the little, very easy, ClickFunnels makes it to easily customize your URL. So and your URL almost like becomes a call to action. So mine's like blinkov.org/real estate.
Okay. To
grab these 3 secrets. They go there, then they hit the landing page of the funnel, the landing pad. Let's put a little H there for a helicopter, right?
Drone.
And then at that point they could bounce, right? They could bounce. Some of them will bounce, some of them will proceed. And at that point, when they proceed, I give them a little bit of I give them what I promised. And then I'm like, hey, but wait, here's what I actually do. But the thing is, at that point, they've already made this like psychological transaction with you. You've already, because Grant said this earlier, he's like, man, $0 is a number.
Right.
So you kind of made a sale to them.
Yeah.
So they're already much warmer to you. So some of them actually go ahead and proceed to whatever it is the next thing you want them to do. Maybe sign up for a webinar or something like that. And besides all this, you're then also using the power of the Facebook Pixel, which is a tracking cookie that even if they're just hit here, the landing page, and they bounced, they left, they never came back, you're using Facebook Pixel to to essentially be able to capture data about those people without them even knowing it.
So what
And
they're
then
is that like a retargeting thing?
exactly,
Or? Okay.
exactly. And then
So it's
you
like they go
retarget.
wherever on the internet and they're gonna see an ad maybe from you somewhere else. Is that how that works?
Exactly,
Or oh, really?
exactly.
Okay,
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah,
You can tell
yeah.
I'm not an internet marketer, and I kind of like I intellectually understand all this stuff, and it's like
Uh-huh.
I really that's why I wanted to talk to you because I know that you have like a deep understanding of this. But
Yeah.
anyway, this is really interesting. It's very helpful. Keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I don't want to
it's
stop
just
you.
it's really all about and I put some notes for me to make sure I mention them. It's really the way I see it is really simple. There's there's two, three things I care about because it all became much simpler now. I used to have this elaborate process, but it's
Right.
all about warming people up to you,
Mm-hmm.
whether they see you in a Facebook group just dropping knowledge, right? That's a warm up for that you kind of rise a little bit in their eyes. Whether they see you on your in their email box inbox, you're using your email to tell them something. That's warming them up. And then it's also about creating an irresistible offer. So that's where it's like I mean, you just really got to know who your customer is. You have to not kind of be honest with yourself about who your customer is, and then you actually have to go and talk to them. Either talk to them, or if you're so super introverted, create a Facebook poll in a Facebook group,
You get
but try
feedback.
to do some market research about what they actually want, what problems they have, and then maybe you will even see a problem that they have. Let's say you post a Facebook poll for entrepreneurs and you're like, what's the biggest thing you're struggling with? And you put options: SEO, funnel, ads, retargeting, right? And a bunch of them will pick SEO.
Right.
But then you can actually, what you can do is to create an irresistible offer, you can create a lead magnet in your Facebook ad. Your lead magnet, your offer
Yep.
is going to be how I crushed my business online without ever caring about SEO.
Interesting.
You
Which
know what
is
I'm saying?
true, right? This is like your real world experience. Your pain created this capability, right? So
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
interesting. So I always find this really interesting, and you kind of touched on something because I try to talk about how you've got to think about your customer's problem to come up with a new product, right? And that's digital, especially if you're like in a non-digital business or you're in a professional service. And I'll be honest, like I think that might be the gap for me is sometimes I don't always. There's two problems. One is I underestimate or don't appreciate what I can offer, or you talk yourself out of it. And the second
Uh-huh.
is I'm guessing at what those people think as
That's
opposed to
the
getting information back, which
that's
is a
the
good idea that you
I
had, right?
that was my that's still honestly that's still my problem. Even with the drone business, that's still my problem
You're too
because
close
I
to
because I'm exactly you got it, man. Like
it.
you're in it. You gotta
Physician, heal
ask. You gotta
thyself,
ask.
right? So,
Yeah.
and it's such a weird blind spot, which is the way why I like talking to you. It's really interesting because I almost feel like that's the other also the power. We talk about expanding your business, where sometimes we can do everything, but you hit these weird roadblocks where it's almost like you need someone else there to deal with these things, not because you're not capable, but because you don't want to hold yourself back.
Yeah, yeah.
Because our
And
mindset gets in the way of these little things, right? Anyways, I find that very interesting that you say that. So,
I appreciate, I really like hearing that because it reminds me just once more, like, dude, don't be afraid of criticisms. Go and ask somebody to evaluate what you're doing. That's why, it's good to hang out with people that have something
I
else.
agree, like not to push that group or anything, but I think it's important, right? Like it's like that's an example of how now you've got this community of people you trust and they have different skill sets and they'll give you
Yeah.
honest feedback, right? It's a safe
Oh,
environment
yeah.
that way. It can be very
Yeah.
valuable, I hope.
Yeah. I already
Um,
have two clients from that group.
That's great. That's super. So we talked a little bit like you've given us like kind of the capabilities of the Facebook ads, Facebook groups, Facebook Pixel, all really interesting tools. The other one that's really interesting to me is the Messenger and the chatbots in
Oh,
that
yes.
space.
That's the absolutely, man. Yeah.
And
That's
what's your like? How do I've seen it used in different ways where like you're talking about using so ClickFunnels being a marketing automation platform where what just kind of maybe briefly touch on so people might not know that product.
Oh, sure, 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 sure.
What does ClickFunnels deliver? Like what's
Yeah.
the technical the
Yeah,
features?
ClickFunnels is I would say because ClickFunnels competition is regular websites.
Okay.
I feel like that's the biggest thing. So I
Interesting.
would call ClickFunnels the easiest website builder in the world that is also focused on creating a funnel-like experience where you're getting people in, you're giving them a consistent pitch to
Yep.
everybody, and you're giving them a very clear call to action. You're not letting people customize your own pitch for you because you're like, oh well, people are like, should I look at their gallery? Okay, let me look at their gallery.
Interesting.
And then in the
So
gallery
now,
they'll
so
have a call to
you're
action.
taking them through a customer. So I always talk about a customer journey, and
Yeah.
then also a sales process. So the customer journey is like the stages that a customer goes through to make a decision and buy your product or something, right?
Yeah.
It's like they have a problem, they recognize that problem, they're now looking for options to solve that problem, they're then looking at alternatives to solve that problem, and then they decide which person they're going to solve the problem with, right?
Sales process, yeah.
Yeah, and then you overlay that with a sales process, which is like, how do I get them to each stage? What information do I give them to the point where they're going to buy me and trust me? And that's kind of what you're talking about, which is instead of you're giving a curated experience on a website with ClickFunnels is what you're describing, which is you're trying to take them through that journey. So that's really interesting. I never thought of that.
Yeah, because otherwise they're like, they'll go to your landing page, then they have 6 options. You don't even know who's gonna go to.
It's like herding cats, and
and they're like, and on your gallery you'll have a call to action usually. Like everybody's got like a couple buttons,
Sure.
get a quote, contact us. But then like, should I contact them or should I go read reviews some more? After reviews, should I go to the FAQ? And then they're so freaking fatigued. They're like, you know what? Let me just grab some coffee. I don't feel like.
You've lost them, their attention.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then ClickFunnels. So the capabilities of ClickFunnels that someone buys this. It's a software as a service that's online. It lets you create.
Right.
I think landing pages is one of the features.
Yes, landing pages, a ton of them, ton of free ones that are already pre-built. You pretty much just drag and
Like
drop your
templated.
images.
Got it.
Yeah,
And then it's an email marketing like sequences, like or
No, they don't. No, you would have to you have to integrate it with.
With
Actually,
something
no,
else.
they do. I'm sorry, they do have an offering, which is called Actionetics, which is a autoresponder email marketing tool. I don't actually use it. I use Chimp, but
Oh, really?
yes,
MailChimp.
do that.
Okay.
And ClickFunnels also has a membership area, which is not the greatest, but if you're actually taking somebody through a funnel and then you've got a digital course, you can actually have all your digital assets and your course delivery be within ClickFunnels too.
Oh, you can. Interesting. Because I use Kajabi for that sort of stuff.
That's better. That's better
It
for
is.
course.
Okay, because that's really a knowledge platform, but I think it's weaker on maybe the marketing and sequence features. I just don't know. I know those are sort of competitive, but they can also be complementary. And
I had a client that I had to get into his Kajabi funnel. I think Kajabi their editor sucks.
right.
Their editor is not as robust.
As
You
good
kind
as
of have to
ClickFunnels.
operate within this tiny box. Yeah,
Got it.
it just
Interesting. So really interesting tool set. So I guess what we've talked about is Facebook in particular as a platform is not just like a social network. It's also a really highly targetable ad platform where you as a marketer can, I think, target your audience. You've given us some really good ideas around ads, groups, using the pixel if they leave that environment. And then you're saying you use ClickFunnels instead of building a website so that you're taking someone through a customer journey to make a decision.
exactly. Yeah.
And then so here's and actually I want to touch on the chat as well. So
Oh yeah, that's right. Messenger.
before I forget. So what's your feeling on that, and what can that be used for? Because I think they've built a really interesting platform there, but I think it's maybe not known to everybody how that works.
I think it's super. I think it's amazing. Actually, I haven't used it with a client yet, but I'm all learning about it. Definitely using it within like 2 weeks, 1 week maybe even. It's amazing. I mean, you just click a button and boom, that thing is like lands in your messenger, whatever your lead magnet was, and then you can follow up with people in their messenger. I do have to say I'm going to experiment with it with my own businesses before I take it to clients.
Okay.
Because I've gotten some messenger requests where it's kind of like after I get the actual magnet, it gets annoying. I mean,
Yeah, because they're hammering you in a sequence. So instead
They
of
are.
sending you email sequence, so this is just so people know, when you've got the Facebook chat messenger, right? And we can communicate with that. And there's all, if it's on your mobile, you've got a separate app. But the idea is, let's say I have a Facebook ad, somebody clicks it, you can make that that the response to that show up in the messenger. So it's like from a bot, right?
Yeah.
And then what I've seen people do with that is they'll take all that stuff you're talking about funnel that would appear on like ClickFunnels or another website, show up in the messenger. So it's consecutive messages. It might actually be programmable to respond to your responses. So you might say, yeah, I'm interested. And it goes, okay, great. But you can automate all that stuff, right? And then to your point, I can send documents. I can send links. Like I can give resources. I think you can even do commerce in there, right? Like you could push a buy button.
Yes, you can. Yeah, you can actually give them like a response that they click.
And
you
it
can
goes
give them
to a shopping cart somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting. And then does ClickFunnels do shopping carts as well? Is there like an e-commerce component?
They do. It's really easy to take people's money with ClickFunnels.
In a positive way.
Super fast. Yeah, it integrates with Stripe. They have a bunch of sales pages already designed for you. You just plug in your product picture, and then boom, you credit card. It's there.
And do they have like multiple products, or is it you can just create a landing page with one transaction, or how does that work on ClickFunnels? Just out of curiosity, I haven't really used it enough to know.
So, do you mean like
could
buy
you create
more
like
than
an
one?
e-commerce site through it, or sort of not that detailed?
You probably could. The way I see it, it's more like you sell one thing. You sell the first, like it's called tripwire offer.
Yep.
You sell something that's like a book, for example, for $10.
Yep.
And then what ClickFunnels is good at is that one-time offer, the upsell.
Upsell, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the credit card information is already there, and then you just like click, here, hey, do you want to upgrade right now? Boom.
Really interesting. Okay. So I don't want to belabor that too much. The one other thing I did want to ask you about was, and this is always in my head, so I think most people are on Facebook. It's a massive audience, right? And it seems to have really good targeting capabilities. If I'm in a B2B sales environment, so let's, we could use my business as an example where I'm looking for people that are using not an enterprise, but it is a business software, right? Like CRM or marketing automation tools for a business.
Yep.
Have you seen it successful where Facebook is used for that?
Yes.
I know there's LinkedIn, but I'm curious how that would work. And if you were given a challenge, for example, and I said, listen, I would love to get leads for people that need Salesforce, let's call it development. Through Facebook, would you be able to build that type of funnel and see conversion on it?
Yeah. So very, very good question, and amazing question, because obviously the common thing to think, I think, is like, all right, so Facebook is like where people hang out.
Right.
It's more like user based, right? It's more like not company, but it's not like LinkedIn or anything like that. The thing is, the people that are on Facebook are the people that are having problems in the enterprise that need the solutions that you're offering. Their problems are still experienced by people. And actually, most people that are, I think, over 30 and 40, and where you get to the decision makers, most of those people are on Facebook. Like a lot of times,
right, that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's the younger kids that are actually using other stuff now.
Snapchat, which
Facebook is like forever. Yeah. But the thing is, like, I mean, every company that I've worked at, we've used Facebook marketing there. I don't know if we've done great with the companies where I was actually an employee. I don't know if they didn't do a great job with actual ad design, and I don't think they tested enough things, because you got to test what works. But the thing I want to tell you is that you can actually target people that are, so like if you look at let's say this is your timeline where you're spending your ad dollars on Facebook. Okay, so here you're defining, and it's also, I don't know, time times money, and this is the timeline. So you're going to pick a target. You're going to pick targeting a certain age of people, a certain demographic of people, and then you're going to target people that like Salesforce. A lot of people have actually liked the page to get updates from it. And then you're probably going to have some other things. You can actually target by employer. And you can you can also target by Salesforce
So you could do
competitors.
account based. You could say all the people that work at these 100 or 200 companies, because those are
Yeah,
companies that you want
absolutely.
to sell to. In other words.
Yeah, and when you crack open Facebook targeting, you just like boom, 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 you add them. And you can also do something like, let's say this is people that like Salesforce, and let's say like Oracle or Eloqua, right?
Right.
And then these people are working at company one, company two, and you can actually like crisscross it so it's Facebook has to target people that are this and they're this. So
Interesting. So it gets
so
really
that's like
hyper targeted.
yeah, exactly. Laser targeting. And the thing is, a lot of people don't realize is that once you've tested a couple of different ad designs, and you'll test those with like $5, right? You'll test those very cheap, just to see what gets more engagement from people. But once you start scaling up these ads and actually starting to, let's say you have $100 budget, then you have like a $500 budget for your ad.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is Facebook, um, its algorithm that they spend billions of dollars on, it will actually the once you scale up your ad, and I would say scale it up at 15% a day, don't do any more, but they're actually going to track your conversions from those ads and use their algorithms to not just target it to the people you told it to target to, but they're within that targeting, they're also going to optimize that ad for your conversions and use their algorithms to show it to the most relevant people
Wow. Okay,
based
that's
on the
interesting.
conversions.
Because it's
And that's
relevant content, you're saying, to
yeah,
an
and my
audience.
exactly. My mistake early on with Facebook ads is I would kill them off too quickly because I'm like,
Yeah.
shit, it's not getting leads.
Oh,
But
yeah.
you gotta let it optimize it for you. And that's where it gets back to the thing, like these tools are made to help you as
Interesting.
much as much, they're not as hard to figure out anymore, but you gotta also trust the tool a little bit.
That's very interesting. So, all right. So at the end of this, I'm gonna put you on the spot for two things at the end, but I'm gonna give you a third one right now, which is I'm gonna challenge you that let's figure out how we would do just that, and let's prove it. Because
Let's do
if it works,
it.
it's really valuable. Like I'm really
Let's
excited
do
about
it,
that,
man.
right? And I'm
I love targeting. I love like getting into Facebook and like figuring out for this business, for this business, for this business, what's gonna be the
yeah,
target. I
and I
love it.
would be interested in obviously what I described to you. Um,
Uh-huh.
I have another idea, which is I work with some companies on ideally companies that are funded
Uh-huh.
um, as a fractional CTO, or they're businesses that need that technical person. So, but that's
Yep.
almost like as a product or an offering, a program. I would be curious to see how you attack that using Facebook, and if that's even that would be successful. And then of course I
Okay.
wrote a book, and we've got the podcast. So to get that out, like that seems maybe more obvious that might be an easier task for you. But I'm really interested. We can talk offline about it. I don't want to be
Oh
totally
yeah.
selfish at the
Oh yeah, we
time.
totally will.
um, so okay, so that's really exciting. So we talked about a lot of different things, like the Facebook Messenger. We talked about how you can target even B2B using this platform.
Yeah.
I know we veered off originally from robotics, which is crazy, like that we've gone full spectrum on that. So I'll probably ask you a couple things. First off, how do people get in touch with you, and what do you want to work on with people?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn it's Gene Blinkov, and if it's essentially the clients that I'm working with now are folks. So just like you've got a consultancy, and you've got to grow it, you've got to scale it, you've got to figure out, and especially if you're noticing your competitors kind of doing some stuff online and it's working for them. This is where we go in and like we have a full arsenal of these tools, these strategies to just crush it online. And what we essentially end up at is we within a couple months we arrive at a measured, very specific number for that cost to bring in a lead, and then from there you just scale it up.
You're
And then
tweaking it and scaling it.
yeah, you scale up to your capacity of your business. If you want to grow, keep growing.
So
So
the best way to get in touch with you?
so it's Gene Blinkoff on LinkedIn.
Okay, Gene
Yeah.
Blinkov. And then,
And then my portfolio of companies is on blinkov.org. So you can find me there. I actually have my LinkedIn link to my LinkedIn. Link to my LinkedIn is on my link blinkov.org.
Got it. Okay. So we'll put all these links also in the show notes so that everything's there and people can get in touch with you. And then I'm going to ask you 2 questions that I ask at the end of this for most people. And I'm going to put you on the spot for both of them because that's what I do. So the first one is, Gene, what are you working on, or how are you changing the world?
Yeah, man. Ooh, that's big.
This is the legacy question.
That gets you to dive out of your grind, and you're like, what am I doing? So I'm changing the world by showing that you can start a business even if you're completely from a place that's not business-like, even if you were taught completely wrong things about business, about money, about credit, about leverage, about finance, about the system. And there's a few of us out there. There's a lot of us out there.
There's a lot in the system, by the way. Like, they're in the country that's the freest, most democratic ever,
yeah, exactly.
and the richest ever. And there's a lot of people being educated that way. So don't be,
Yeah.
But it's a great example, right?
Exactly. And my mission is to prove that you can do it. And my mission is to also show how to be so focused on it, because man, like, I don't have days off. I don't do any of that stuff, that you can actually sacrifice your time, your free time, your leisure, and you are able to do it. Your body will get used to it. Your family, you can still keep in touch with your family. It's all possible. It's possible to turn up the heat and make this thing happen, and not have it to take you 20 years. You can make it happen, but you got to turn up the heat. That's the thing. And I just want to be an example of that. And I actually found that I thrive better as a person in that environment.
That's amazing.
Actually, my mission is to stay alive. And this is the only way I can stay alive. This is the only way I feel great. If I'm what is it, Friday night tonight? And I'm not freaking going to a bar. I'm here with you.
I didn't even know that. I was like, I didn't even know what day it is. So you're right. It's Friday. It's like 3 o'clock where I am. So it's 6 where you are. So that's crazy. It's funny. Before I ask you the last question, I spoke to my grandfather who lives in Canada near the U.S. border, and I haven't seen my grandfather in a while. And I called him, and he goes, "Hey, yeah, things are good," but I said, "I'm gonna come see you," and he goes, "Oh no, I'm working." I'm like, "Oh, wow." So he goes, "But listen, I bought a new condominium and an hour away in this other city that's close to where he lives in London, Ontario." I go, "Oh my God, really? He's gonna move? This is crazy." He goes, "Yeah." Goes, so you should come see me there. We'll see each other a lot more. I'm like, "Oh, great. When's that?" He goes, "June of 2019.
Oh.
He goes, "So I'm excited to see you. I'll see you then." And I was like, "What?" He goes, "Listen, what am I going to do? Stop working?" He goes, "I'm going to die."
I see.
He goes, "I have purpose. I work. That's what I do."
Yeah.
So your work ethic, I really respect that and appreciate it. And I don't begrudge him for it just because of that. So, okay, so the final question, and then we can wrap up, is I want to put you on the spot about one more thing. I'm trying to do a lot of content in a short amount of time. And what I'd like to have you do, and I know we're in a group together, and it actually maybe, I wouldn't mind if it was outside of that group, but I'd like you to nominate someone, just the way you were nominated, to be on the podcast.
Oh, man.
And ideally in one of those 4 areas that we talk about, whether it's digital product creation or transformation, marketing, sales, support.
Yeah. Oh, man. Interesting.
Someone interesting that you think would be worthwhile being on the show.
Do I have to nominate him right now? Right on the spot?
Do you want, if you want to think about it, but it's more interesting if you do it right now.
Yeah. No, I feel you. In the marketing space.
Well, it doesn't have to be marketing. It can be marketing, sales, customer support, or product creation. Some innovator or entrepreneur.
You know what? Let's give you sales. And this guy's been he's been in sales. He's the freaking sales guy.
Okay.
And he's actually also from the group, and he's trying to blow up. So he'll definitely contribute. And it's his name's Fred Ward.
Oh my God! You know what? We got Fred nominated already. So.
Are you serious?
Yeah. That's so funny that you say that. So, but Fred's been so busy selling that he isn't on. So.
Oh,
right,
really?
So,
okay.
Fred Ward, you've again been challenged. And I've been questioning it because you haven't jumped on this opportunity. So apparently this is a guy that we got to talk to. I'm still not going to chase you, man. So what I'm gonna say is we can wrap it up, but offline, I'd like you to think about one more person, maybe outside the group, that's in your sphere of influence that might be an interesting person to talk to. But I will take Fred Ward for the moment, and I'm gonna tag Fred Ward on this and that group, and we'll go from there. But so there's a fire truck going by. I think that's the signal to wrap it up. Thank you very much, Gene. This has been really interesting. I hope people are as excited about this conversation as I am. And this has been episode 5 of Automate and Grow. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
This has been an episode of the Automate and Grow podcast. Check out other episodes for interesting topics on how to grow, innovate, and automate your business. Subscribe or like us on iTunes, YouTube, Google Play, or on our website at www.automategrow.biz and get your copy of the book Automate and Grow at Amazon today.